all, want to start off by saying congratulations on this EP. I've had a chance to have a listen, and it's a fantastic EP, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I was wondering if you could start off by telling our listeners a little bit about the history of the band. This is your debut EP. Tell us a little bit about how the band came together in the first place.
Was looking to start coming out of another band, looking to start something just a little more on the heavier side, and reached out to Mike, and we just kind of went at it. We're just like a two-piece. We basically said, let's just kind of get the fundamentals of some songs, some ideas down. We knew we wanted it to be heavy and buzzy and just really kind of just spice, but a little faster. Like, we like psych rock, we like stoner, we like doom, but we wanted to have a little bit of all of it instead of just being a doom band playing everything a little slow, or being a stoner band where everything's a little faster, or a psych rock band where it moves around. We want kind of trying to get all those dynamics in there.
So did you two already know each other, or did you discover each other while you were looking to set up the band?
That went around in circles. We knew each other. I actually auditioned for a band that he was in many years ago, and that didn't pan out. And then years later, I was in another band, and his band we played shows together. Yeah. And then when I showed up to do this one with him, it was just
like, hey, I know you.
Oh yeah, old buddies.
It's been pretty cool. But then it was like we started like late 2019, and we had about 10 songs. So January of like 2020, we recorded them. Just me and him. We just recorded them, guitar, bass, drums. We were looking for a singer, and I had reached out to Carl Agel who used to be in Corrosion of Conformity, Blind album. Really an awesome guy, awesome singer, who's in like 5 different bands. And we had kind of went back and forth. He was like, I'm kind of busy. Sent him some material. He goes, maybe we can do this. Let's try to get together in March 2020.
Awesome.
So COVID hit.
Yep.
And that didn't happen. So that whole thing went kind of whatever. We still kept working on stuff, and then by the time we kind of reached back out with him, he was already doing another band. We were looking for people. So I didn't want to be the singer. I had been a singer years ago. I just wanted to stay in the back, play guitar, play riffs. And after you try out enough people, and you're like, and Mike came in one day.
Much of a choice.
Yeah, he was like, okay, dude, you're going to be the singer. That's it. We're not doing this anymore. Like, trying out people, and they come in all half cooked, and we're like, all right. So then we just went at it. We both play guitar and bass and drums, so we can piggyback off each other. We both write the lyrics, so it's kind of we don't really need anybody else, honestly. We did bring in a bass player right before we started playing some shows, and then he had gotten COVID and gotten a real bad side effect to it, so he's pretty much been out of commission. So we went back to being a two-piece, and we're just going to kind of stay here. If he's not coming back, we're just going to be a two-piece. If he comes back, certain people you don't want to replace. He's a good dude.
He's not replaced.
Yeah.
Great player.
Very good.
So what was the first lot of times when you first got together to work out the band sound like? You mentioned that you wanted to incorporate stoner, psych rock. What was that first like when you got together to experiment with what the sound of the band would be like?
I think we wrote the first time we played. We wrote, and it's on the release. We wrote Iron Fist in probably
an hour
or so. That was done. It came together naturally because we had so many of the same influence.
Yeah, we definitely. That was the thing that sped it up pretty good, is that we both like the same stuff. So I'm not trying to like sell him on, Killing Joke or Down. He's not trying to sell me on Clutch or, Truck Fighter. We like all the same. So we can almost reference things the same, which just moves things along pretty good. And we constantly are writing riffs. I mean, the phone has, every time we get a riff, we just pop it on the phone, bring it to rehearsal, work on it. And usually by the end of it, we got a structure for something. So we're pretty lucky in that aspect that we have quite a lot of material. So we're going to release like EPs instead of whole albums. I don't think people have the attention span right now for it, where it's easy for us to do a little more maintenance. Just release 6, release 6, release 6. Keep them up like that. We can release, a couple of EPs a year if we wanted. We might do that.
Yeah. Now, these tracks, they explore some very, very deep topics. I was wondering if you could tell our listeners a little bit about the topics that you explore on these tracks and what made you choose those topics as things to delve into.
The topics, a lot of it, some of it is just simple. Like Voodoo Mama it's about a trip I took to New Orleans. Plain and simple. There's not much to it. A lot of the other stuff it's kind of about hypocrisy, and we just put a colorful spin on it.
Using the occult, using witchcraft, use voodoo, use a lot of those elements, almost like a mask almost. You can get political, and then you can turn off a lot of people. You can mask it in, trappings of voodoo and occult and witchcraft, and it makes for a more interesting story, and also gets the listeners' ears to perk up a little bit.
Yeah.
So it actually takes a little bit too. It's not like country music. I always say is real basic. They're so literal that there's no mystery to it. It's a very literal music. Hip hop is very literal music. But metal, you can kind of play around with the story a little bit. You can mask things, and it's a lot more fun. I think it challenges the listener a little more too.
Is voodoo and witchcraft, is that something that you've both had an interest in over the years?
I have forever.
Yeah.
I've always been interested in that stuff ever since I was a little kid. Horror movies, and just go on from there.
Yeah, I'm from New Orleans, so I grew up around all that stuff. It was very normal. That is the norm. You have Santeria, you have witchcraft, you have voodoo, you have Satanism, you have Catholicism, you have all of it. And it's all within a 20-mile radius. And you're exposed to it all. It's not that any of it's good or bad. It's just different perspective, different thought, different lifestyles. It all seems to work with each other.
Definitely,
They all seem to have common elements. Yeah, they all have common themes too. That they're sprinkled along with they kind of cross-pollinate.
Yeah. You both mentioned Voodoo Mama before. You said about it being influenced by a trip to New Orleans. It feels like there's a story there. Does anyone want to elaborate on that story?
Oh, I went down there actually for a football game. I went down to see a football game. It was my first time to New Orleans. And, I'm doing what everyone does. I'm up and down Bourbon Street and all these other streets. And literally I'm seeing stuff that I've just never encountered before. I'm seeing people who look like vampires, and they're sleeping next to the river. And like the lyrics are very literal as to that trip. And one of the things I wanted to do, I wanted to see the grave of Marie Laveau. And I never actually got to find it.
They moved it, I thought, too. A while back, you could go to her grave, and everyone knows this. You go to her grave, you scratch 3 X's on her tomb, and you make a wish or a curse or whatever it is, and supposedly it happens. Back in the day, her mausoleum front was so X'd up, I think they actually made her a new one because it was literally... hard to find. And every time bands go into town and stuff, you'll read stuff about, back in the day, the Misfits got arrested in that cemetery trying to find it. Everybody's always trying to find it.
Yeah.
And it's just part of the history there. It's part of the tourist part of it. But there's, it's got some deep-rooted history there with her, because she was actually a very prominent figure in the political structure of things back in the day. Like politicians would go to her and for perspective, advice, she was almost kind of very well revered. Awesome. Interesting lady. A lot of story, a lot of history there.
Yeah.
People embellish it, they'll make it a little more hocus pocus, but it's really not.
You mentioned bands heading to New Orleans. Is that both on your wish list of places for the band to play in?
Oh, absolutely.
We'll be there either later this year or early next year for sure. This year we're just kind of getting our footing right now and having to readjust again as a two-piece, kind of getting that laid out, trying to get some press moving. And you need to develop a little bit of a fan base on that. And every time you start a new band, no matter what you were doing before, you start over. You start at the bottom, work your way up, you find your people, and you go play for them. So right now we're in the process of finding our people.
Yeah. Apart from finding your people, for the rest of this year, will you start working on new music as well, or will you look to tour at the later part of the year, or is touring something that you're looking at for next year?
Scattered shows right now. We're always writing. There's not a time that we get together that we're not working on.
We have a lot of stuff.
We've got tons of material just sitting there waiting, mostly for lyric inspiration and stuff. But
video we got to do. We're going to try to hopefully lock down time to do videos for all the songs. That's the best way we can get out there right now. And as far going, it'll be nice to do smaller treks. Financially, it is impossible to do a large trek on any big scale without any sort of backing. But smaller stuff, we're in North Carolina. We're 12 hours from New York, Chicago, New Orleans, and Jacksonville. So we're kind of like in the center of this weird little diamond. And it would be nice to be able to do little 3 or 4 day runs in every direction by end result being hitting a major city.
Awesome.
So that's kind of the plan. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Well, guys, I want to say thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on here. And I guess to finish off, I'd like to ask, what would you like to say to people out there who are about to listen to your EP for the first time?
Wow. Really listen to the lyrics. Yeah. Listen to it. Put it together logically instead of assuming it's, Satanism or, whatever. Just look at it for what it is.
Listen to it in your car and drive really fast, because that's what we do with it.
Yes,
it's definitely
really
great
fast.
Background music to drive very fast to. We've heard this quite a few times, so I'm actually stealing that from somebody else. Like, every time I hear your music, man, I want to drive really fast. I'm like, okay, I'll take that. No, that works for me.
We have a saying here in Australia where we quite often ask each other who are music lovers, what was the first album that you got a speeding fine to? So that is actually really a thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Oh, it's definitely.
So what part of Australia are you in?
So I'm in Gippsland, which is the country area just out of Melbourne.
Okay. It's one of my favorite bands is from there, The Church.
Oh, yes.
I love The Church.
I actually went to university and had one of the members of the church come in and do a lecture at one point about soundtracks and film. Yeah.
Love me some Stephen Kilby, Marty Wilson Piper, Peter Koppes. Those guys are brilliant. They have it. You want to talk about a catalog? They've got 30 albums. I mean, they're brilliant. Love that band.
Have you
people from all? I'm sorry?
I was going to say, have you caught the music that Steve Kilby has done with Martin Kennedy at all?
No, but should I?
Yeah, you should. Martin Kennedy is an absolutely brilliant musician from Australia, and he teamed up with Steve for some albums, and they're absolutely fantastic.
I will definitely listen to that, because I love them. And a funny story, I was going to a gig one night. This is about 10 years ago. Going to a gig, I'm literally on my phone, dude texts me, dude, gig got canceled. I'm like, great. So I'm downtown, and I remember, oh shit, The Church is playing. I literally went across the street, ran in there, the guy said, sold out, I only got a couple of tickets left. I go, what do you got? He goes, they got a front row single seat. I was like, I will take it. And I jumped in there right when they're walking on stage. I'm like 10 feet from Marty Wilson Piper. They played 2 songs from every album backwards. So from whatever year it was, I was like 2011 all the way to 1980. They played 2 songs from every album backwards. It was one of the most brilliant nights. One of the best concerts I ever saw. They were bulletproof. Amazing band.
They are. They're absolutely fantastic. And guys, I guess before we go, I should ask you, For our listeners, how can they reach out to you socially? Are you guys on all the social media platforms?
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook. We have a TikTok, but we don't really know much how to use it. There's just really one video of my cat on there.
Yeah, we don't do a lot of TikTok dancing, so I don't know how they're going to find us, but we'll start putting some riffs on there, stuff for some rehearsals. But it's Facebook, Hellfire 76. It's Hellfire 76 NC for Instagram.
For Instagram, and then Hellfire76.com.
Yeah. So they can keep up with us that way.